My name is Era, and I'm the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast. I chat with creators from all over the world to share their stories and discuss hot topics in a way that I hope inspires, educates, and entertains you. Yeah, I don't know how I found you. I think I found you by accident. I was just kind of looking through, and because my friend Mahi and Shalini, I think you know them as well.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to them, and then I saw your profile, and I was like, oh, because I want to try to get them on, but like they're a bit more shy about kind of doing public stuff, and I was like, I'm interested in franchising, so I was like, oh, I'd love to talk to somebody that's Tamil that's doing it, because you don't see that many people doing it, or at least talking about like franchising as kind of a business model. Like most people either start something. Yeah.
No, for sure. I was always curious how you actually found me, but that makes a lot of sense because they own the Morningside location. The funny thing is, I'm actually a very shy person too, but like one of my goals is to get out more, like be involved in things like this a little bit more. I put myself out there. So I was like, you know what, like the opportunity kind of presented itself. So I was like, you know what, I should take it and just see where it takes me, right? So it's actually funny that you're saying that they were too shy to come on, because I would have literally been the same way maybe a year ago.
Perfect timing. Well, for everyone listening, this is another episode of The Tamil Creator. I'm your host, Era. And today we have Piraveen Sivalingam, and he is a Boston pizza franchisee owner at the Markham location. So if you live in the Markham area, hit up the store. Piraveen, welcome to the show. Thanks for overcoming your shyness and hopefully dropping some knowledge today for some folks listening that are interested in getting into the franchising world.
For sure, I'll definitely try my best, and thank you again, Aura, for having me here.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, for me, I'm just like interested. I guess did you jump right into franchising, or like did you do any kind of business, or like what made you even decide that franchising was something you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, you know what? Growing up, my family has been in restaurants ever since I can remember. Like, so we lived in Scarborough and Malvern area. My dad
was
working at Crow Trail, like right beside.
Oh, I lived on Crow Trail. I lived on 97 Crow Trail, and
I forget. I think we were 64. I think we were 64 Crow Trail. That's actually so funny.
Yeah. I went to Tom Longwood until like grade 4 or 5, and then I went to Mary Shad. Crazy. Okay,
awesome.
Sorry, yeah. Continue.
Yeah. But literally same thing. I was there to grade 3, moved to Markham, and that was it from there. But my dad, so my dad was actually working at a pizza at Warren Eglinton. And eventually he was very close with the owner at the time. And basically he bought him out from that location, and he never looked back since. From that location, they went and bought like Woodbine Beaches. They went and bought the location Midland Lawrence near like David and Mary Thompson, that area.
This is also Boston Pizza?
No, it's all pizza.
Oh, sorry.
So that's where we actually started. So we own 3 pizza franchises, and my dad kind of built up his network from there. And then honestly, we kind of stumbled upon Boston Pizza by luck. So me growing up, I worked in the pizza change, which is more quick service. So it's a little bit more different than what I'm doing now. So like now, like Boston Pizza is it's a casual dining, but it's a full service restaurant. So obviously, people are there for, 90 minutes or, whatever amount of time they're here for a full experience. Whereas with quick service, you're just kind of coming, grabbing your food, and you're out of there, like McDonald's or like, Harvey's or whatever it is. So with Boston Pizza, we lived like 5 minutes away from that location. And internally, my dad had a contact that worked through like Pizza head office. He worked at Tim Hortons head office and all these other places. And my dad still kept in touch with them. And he basically just approached my dad one day. I was just like, hey, there's an opportunity here. It's an interesting opportunity, as in like it's a Boston Pizza. It's not doing so well, but if you want it, I think we can make a deal happen. And basically, I was going there as a kid as well, right? So I was basically, by the time we bought the restaurant, I was about 21 or 22. My brother was like 17 or 18 years old, or 19 even. And I took a lot of convincing from my dad to like kind of trust us to take that restaurant over. Because like he had to fund us. Obviously at 21, I didn't have the type of money it would take for the capital to obviously invest in a Boston Pizza. But I went there enough to realize like what it needed to kind of thrive in that environment. So that's kind of where we started, and we never looked back since.
So wait, you and your brother, so you were 21, 22, your brother was 17, 18, and you guys were running a Boston Pizza.
Yeah, so like that alone was a challenge, because obviously on the franchisor side, they're looking at, they're looking at me and my brother, or like just me at that time. Initially, it was just like, you're going to have this 22-year-old kid come and run this full service restaurant. and he's liable for rent being paid, he's liable for his staff to get paid, he's just liable for the brand itself. And that was like another hurdle that we had to get it past. So initially, and a lot of people, some people know this, some people don't, I actually had a partner, which was one of my dad's friends initially when we started, but we ended up buying him out because, again, this is like a learning lesson early on. Like, you need to have a common view when it comes to this type of business or any business you get into. You need to understand your roles, your responsibilities, things of that nature before you dive into a partnership together. This partner of my dad's, or of mine at the time, he's a very good friend of my dad's. We still, actually, I talked to him today. So we still do business together, just in other ventures. The restaurant thing just didn't work out for us, but that was fine too, because when we kind of like separated, we left on good terms, on a good note.
So I'm assuming you guys had some kind of shareholder agreement or something that kind of defined, if things don't work out, here's how we buy each other out, or kind of.
You know what? So at 21, 22, I was still kind of learning the ropes. And, like, again, like, coming from a background, like our background, like my dad kind of had like that trust policy in place where, it's more like a verbal thing. It's just I guess, an understanding, I guess, as you would say it. And, like, he's been doing business with this guy for so long. He didn't feel like there would be any issues, I guess, moving forward in terms of anything that may have happened. And it was a bit of a bumpy road trying to figure out how we would do the buyout and what that number might look like and all those things. And that was like our learning lesson there, saying doesn't matter if it's friends or family, have a trust agreement in place so everyone understands exactly what their roles are within the business and who does what and what they get paid for and X amount and whatever it may be. But at the end of it, we got it resolved, which is like the most important thing. And like I said, we still talk, like, to this day. We still do business together till this day.
Yeah, no, I only bring it up because, like, I think when you go into business with friends or family, obviously, like, it's like anything, you obviously you want to be optimistic. You want to, have things play out the way you expect them in a good way. But, those obviously agreements are great when things don't work out. There's a clear path to, oh, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I got a family, or, whatever else reason, I don't have time. I have my health issues.
100%.
So that's why I was just curious, but no, it's good to kind of see.
No,
that. I learned the same way as you did, so that's why I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I definitely like if I could do it all over again, or if I could start from scratch again, I would definitely do so many things more like differently than what we did or how we started off. Like, we didn't have the guidance or like the knowledge that we do now when we first started off. And that's the thing about business, right? Like, there's so much that you'll just know going into it. It's more about kind of like just going with it and just figuring out as you go sometimes. And that's the best way of learning. It can cost a bit of money, but like, if I was to advise anyone, definitely don't look at any partnership as, I know this guy for 30 years and he won't we won't have like we won't be able to figure it out or whatever it may be. It's just more about having things in place properly, structured by a lawyer, have your accountants in place and making sure that you don't skip out on those important parts.
I guess I know you said you guys got into franchising as a result of your like dad starting off by getting into the pizza franchises. How did he even think of like getting into franchising? Because like my dad, he ran a restaurant. It was called Rico Restaurant. It's where the Embassy restaurant is now at Middlefield and Finch. So he like ran it for a long time, like a while ago. But he never like thought of. I don't think a lot of I think immigrant people, like folks, think of like running a franchise as a business. Like, it just doesn't seem plausible or even something you think about. So like, what made your dad even think about? This episode is sponsored by nobody. That's right, nobody. So if you could be kind enough to hit that subscribe button, that would mean a lot to me.
To be honest, I think he just found somewhere that he can call home. Like, honestly, like when he started at Pizza, like he was just like a cook. He was like, maybe like a driver, dishwasher, whatever you might want to call it. He kind of worked his way up. And like I said, he just became really close with the owner at that time. And they became like best friends, literally. And it just came to a point where he wanted out of the business. And my dad said, hey, you know what? Like, I got some cash saved up or whatever it was. And he's just like, he knows the business inside and out. He was good at it. Like, he's extremely like customer oriented. He's very social. So he had like those, I guess, skill sets and senses, and he understood those things. And I guess it kind of came naturally to him, to be honest, because like I can tell you for a fact that he doesn't cook at home, but it's because it's a franchise model and it's kind of set up for you. You're just kind of following a cookie cutter process. He was able to thrive in that environment, and like I guess it was something he was just very comfortable with.
Oh, interesting. Is there like I said, like for me, I like digital businesses, but like franchise businesses specifically, I don't know why, but I want to own a bubble tea like franchise or like a very
Yeah,
small location, not anything with like a big, square footage, like just something small. But I
yeah,
want to own one because I love bubble tea, and I feel like
yeah,
if you're gonna own a business, you're gonna like I think either be a customer of it or like know it really
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So like for you, other than like Boston Pizza, like the restaurant space, are there any other restaurant brands or like other kinds of franchises that if you weren't so tied up with kind of all that's on your plate today, that you
Yeah.
would potentially, want to be an owner? And out of curiosity, I'm doing my market
Yeah, I
research.
mean,
So
I hope no one from Boston Pizza listens to this, but like, for me, honestly, like throughout the pandemic, that was a huge eye opener for us in terms of where we like how we developed or grew this business from 2014 up until 2019, and then everything overnight came crashing down for us. It was really an eye opener. Like if I was to like invest in something else, I would find honestly like we found that throughout the pandemic, drive through is king. That's how me and my brother always call it because like they kept going. The movement was always there, all that kind of stuff. I would I'm always interested in like like if I was to go back to quick service, it would definitely be along the lines of like I hear A&W is very lucrative. Even like McDonald's, it's really tough to get into. Like you need a lot of capital, but it's like businesses that you just don't see dying or going anywhere. I just feel like there are a lot of businesses out there, but you really have to just do your research and your homework to figure out what makes the most sense for you. And you have to also understand the numbers, right? It's all like a numbers game, like just like everything else. Like if the numbers don't make sense, it doesn't matter if you do like $500,000 of sales a month or whatever it is, but if your costs are exceeding that, you're not making any money, right? So even with us with this location, we just knew that it was underperforming to like a very high degree, and it would take a bit of capital, but we could definitely turn it around. And we always had that faith that like if we worked hard enough at it and just put in the time and energy that I needed, we could turn that business around. But yeah, definitely if I was to get into like something like that, it would definitely be if it was my brother, he'd probably say like another small full service restaurant, like something like Smash Kitchen. It closes at 10 o'clock, not super late. Like we close at like 2 a.m. some days, right? So it's like long hours. It's very different when you have a family now. Do you really want to be, at the restaurant that late or have to be dealing with all that? So honestly, it just depends on where you are in your life, I think, right? And again, if you have the systems and processes in place, I guess you can make it work either way.
yeah, I thought bubble tea just because like I feel like I'm pretty sure the margins are pretty good on bubble tea,
Yeah, yeah,
and like you don't need a huge location to kind of service that. You
definitely.
can run it off like also supplement it with like Uber and like all these other things around marketing to drive awareness. And so yeah, no, just curious about that.
No,
Do
for
you
sure.
think moving forward with franchise businesses, like the ones you mentioned, A&W, McDonald's, or even other ones that are
Mhm.
kind of up and coming, do you think they'll continue to thrive in the future, like franchise businesses, or do you think only certain ones, like a very small percentage will survive, and people opening up their own individual one-off restaurants or brands will kind of
Yeah.
be the future?
Well, like like we weren't like immune to the pandemic. Like just to go back to like just like big name brands for a second. Like there were Boston pizzas that were affected. I'm sure there are other big name brands that had to do store closures because they just didn't have the business coming in. Maybe the subsidies came in too late to kind of aid them through those 2 years where everything was down. I don't think franchises are going anywhere. I think that like restaurants in general, like it's something that's it's part of your culture. You know what I mean? It's part of everyone's culture, like to go out, have a drink, have a nice meal, whatever it may be. I really don't believe that a few percentage or like a small percentage of restaurants would or survive in the next like 10, 20, 30 years. I think there's going to be a healthy amount of competition, and I don't think that's going to change. I think again, like the brand awareness that a franchise like Boston Pizza brings gives me that competitive advantage, and over like maybe a mom and pop store that maybe didn't survive in the last 2 years, whatever it may be, and that did help me. But I think overall, if you have a good product, you have good service, that's what people are looking for. I truly believe. Like if you're passionate about what you do, it's gonna show through and through. You just need to be patient and be willing to put enough time into the end product and the end user to profit off of it, right?
You mentioned COVID and obviously like the challenges.
Mhm.
Talking to like other folks that ran like Boston Pizza franchise or
Yeah,
like other
yeah,
businesses. Number one thing you hear is about hiring good staff because especially in Ontario, I guess in Canada, there's so much like fluctuation between like what how many people are allowed in the store, like
yeah,
this and that. So people that were working in the restaurant space ended up leaving altogether to like, become PSWs or just other things like
Yeah.
that. How are you addressing that challenge of like finding good staff?
Yeah.
Or like, are you finding that, it's kind of returning back to normal in terms of finding those kind of people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, initially, you're absolutely right. Literally half my team that had to lay off for the beginning part of the pandemic, they ended up just not coming back because they were looking for job security, right? So whether it's joining TD call center or whatever, at least you're guaranteed a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever it is, just to get through whoever long the pandemic was going to last. There are people that were hesitant about returning because in Ontario, actually, we were the most impacted out of the entire world in terms of closures and all that kind of stuff. Like restaurants, like were open and shut within like weeks apart, right? That obviously didn't provide the confidence in our workforce or like the potential candidates to hire someone because they were too afraid that it could be any second where they just decide to say that, hey, restaurants are closing again for another 6 months. Now, like where we are now, I definitely feel that we're getting back to a better place where that those staffing levels are attainable for sure. The quality of candidates can be questionable sometimes, to be honest. But I feel like if you put enough time into like the interviewing process and all that, you can definitely find good candidates. I'm actually in the process of hiring a GM right now. I'm looking at external candidates, like from like the keg, from other places, and we're also looking internally within our own organization as well to find like the best fit. So yeah, I definitely think there are options out there, but it's just more about being patient and not rushing the process.
What's your day like, I guess, in terms of, running the business? Because, like you said, it's, there's some businesses that like close at 5, 6, or like they have earlier closings. You guys are open a bit late, especially on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure you have like, leadership in place to help while you're not there, but, how
Definitely.
involved are you? And obviously it looks probably different from when you started to where you are now, but tell us about that.
Yeah. When I first started, to be honest, I was in no position to like not be at the store. Probably for the first 2 to 3 years, I was there almost every single day, sometimes open to close, back to back days. Just because I honestly couldn't afford to hire a manager to kind of cover the hours that I was looking to kind of offload. It was also important that I was there just to build and grow the business as well, right? Like my location had a reputation. I inherited like a bad rap kind of. There's a lot of work that had to be done in terms of just like food quality, customer service, community outreach, things of that nature. So it took me a solid 2 years just to clean house and kind of get the store running to a level where I can afford to hire another manager. So that was probably my first 2 to 3 years. It was it was probably the toughest years. And then, we kind of started building out our team and figuring out what worked best for our needs, right? So as an example, me, my brother, and we had another manager. We were on shift, pretty much. We were the three managers. Eventually, my brother would kind of lower his hours in terms of managing. Like on a day to day, we'd hire another manager. I think now I'm not gonna say I'm pretty hands off, but I've come to a point where my focus now is just to grow sales, ensure that we're adhering to brand standards, and we're doing the community outreach and things of that nature. So I don't have to be there physically from 9 to 5 every day and work a shift, or 5 to close and work a shift. I can pop in whenever I want and kind of just address the needs of the restaurant. So that was like 8 years in the making, but it feels good that we kind of came to the other side now and we're able to do that.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, with businesses at the beginning, it's almost like having a baby where it can all sometimes be all consuming. But you were like, you said like 21, 22. And, a
Yeah.
lot of your friends at that age, when I was 21, 22, you weren't running a business, you were doing things that, you had a bit more freedom, or like, you're trying to focus on a social life or things like that. So how did that impact you personally? Like, did you feel like, oh, you were missing out on so much that, were your friends like, what are you doing? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's kind of like you're hitting the nail on the head right there. Yeah, I hear it all the time. Like, everyone knew how much I was working. Me and my brother were very heavily invested in the restaurant. We still are. But at that time when everyone's partying, going out to, dinners and all that kind of stuff, I honestly couldn't do any of that. I had to make a choice. And it was either, like let the restaurant fall to shambles to go out for a night with drinks and food with my friends, or I was just like sucking it up and kind of just doing what I had to do. And I would definitely hear it from everyone and be like, "Yeah, you're working too hard. Like, hire someone. You can come out to this party, whatever it is." But when you're the one that has to pay the bills and the money's not there, you have no choice but to kind of suck it up and do what you have to do. Um, yeah, it was a tough time because I did miss out on a bunch of things. But honestly, when I look back at it, I don't regret it at all. I feel like I've positioned myself, and my brother has positioned himself in a great way where you know we're kind of chilling a little bit now and kind of like figuring out what our next steps are in life, uh, versus having to be stuck at the store like 7 days a week. And but again, that was that initial hard work that we had to put in to kind of get to where we are today, right?
What in your like early childhood or your teenage years, because I know people that their parents were entrepreneurs or like in certain kinds of businesses, but they were like, I don't want any part of this. Like, entrepreneurship is very hard, very
Yeah,
like time consuming, especially when
yeah,
you're older
yeah.
and you have kids, and that's when you started versus when you started. So they're like, I don't want any part of entrepreneurship. So what was it during your childhood, like especially if you're seeing your dad do all this, made you and your
Mhm.
brother want to kind of jump full steam, all in into running your own franchise versus, maybe working for somebody or doing some other kind of business?
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could probably see my dad at that age was to go to work or like go like beg to go for a night with him and close the store. And obviously my mom would be super against that, and I was like a kid, and she didn't want me up until like 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever it is. But honestly, just seeing how hard they worked and having to like miss like they weren't really a part of our. I mean, they were great parents and they did so much for us, but they had to sacrifice time with us during those years growing up to be able to provide for us, right? So just being in that environment growing up, literally just stacking pop in the pop cooler or like helping with some prep when you're growing up, because like the Warren Eglinton store was actually right beside the movie theater at Eglinton Square. So my sister, my brother, and I, we can go to the movies, we'll come back to the store, have some food, and if they need help with anything, we kind of be there when we were little, right? As we got older, we actually started working in the business itself. Whether it was like I was literally a delivery driver, I was a cashier in the front. I would be cooking as a line cook in the back. So basically, my dad had me doing everything and kind of just like work me from the ground up, just like any other like team member, without really showing me too much favoritism or anything like that. But he kind of showed me the ropes and just made sure like, hey, I understood how hard it was to make this type of money because restaurants are, it can be very rewarding, but those margins are super thin. And he really instilled how hard it is to make money, like on a day to day, and what he was trying to do for us, right? So I think that was kind of like the inspiration, or like like where we got it from. Because like I said, even like me at home, like I can my wife does a lot of the cooking, but like with restaurants, I'm super passionate about it just because I get to talk to people. There's systems and process that we get to implement, and it's fun. It's just fun doing it, right? So I don't have to be the best cook in the world to be passionate about food, like in general. Like I don't have to be Gordon Ramsay to run this restaurant, but you do have to have a level of passion for it, and that's super important, I think.
I had another question as well, but did you know that every time you left a 5 out of 5 review for this podcast, a Tamil parent lets their child pursue a career in the creative arts? Okay, that's probably not true, but if there's a chance that it is, do you really want to jinx it? Leave a review. Do it for the young creative in you. We'll jump into, I guess, the future, which is, you kind of hit
Yeah,
on it, which is you got the business stabilized, you guys recovered from COVID, things are kind of going fairly smooth.
yeah.
So I guess for you, do you see yourself, run this Boston Pizza location for like the next 10 years? Would you ever consider moving on, like selling the business? And if you were ever to do that, like what would that other thing be, like you're seeing, like you're thinking about it, like what do those possibilities look like?
Yeah. Again, because of the pandemic, it was a big eye opener. Throughout the pandemic, like I had my real estate license, so I was kind of selling houses on the side a little bit there just to bring in some additional income. My brother and I, with another partner of ours, we got into real estate investing as well. We're quite enjoying that. That's also been a bit of a learning curve. I know Mayu's been on your show, so like we reached out to him for advice multiple occasions, been to his networking events. For us, we've had conversations about whether it was time to sell the store. Is this the right thing for us? It's things that happen throughout the course of business because things get turbulent and you wonder, is this the right time to sell and move on? Like you had a good thing going. Let's not hold on to it for too long before and see the business decline. But we still feel like we're in a great position. where there's still more to be done. So definitely like our goal, aside from now, like, kind of moving to real estate and all that kind of stuff, is to expand. So we hope to hopefully, purchase another store. Again, with this economic climate, we're very patient. We're, again, super numbers oriented. Like, the deal has to make sense for us. A lot of people, like, they might have some money and they just want to buy the store just because they want to say they own a Boston Pizza. But it's super important that they analyze the deal, look at the rent, look at the numbers, look at their current sales, and make sure that it makes sense for them. Because getting in is it can be easy, but getting out is hard. Right?
Yeah, I know. It's not as liquid as the real estate market in terms of,
exactly,
because of the buyer market.
exactly.
With like buying a Boston Pizza, like I know the US, I forgot the program, SBA, I think the SBA financing in the US, when you buy a business, there's a government backed programs, almost like
Right.
similar to like what a mortgage would be for buying a house.
Right.
How does it work here? Like, say if I want to buy a Boston Pizza, is there like some kind of financing program that Boston Pizza offers? Or like, if it's like, if I'm buying a business for, say, $1 million, do I need to
Right.
come up with that $1 million? Or can I do like a vendor take back? Or like, how can deals be
Right.
structured?
When we purchased back in 2014, it was a little bit more different. They wanted us to be a lot more liquid and we kind of put a lot more cash up front. We did, I believe, a cash deal. So we didn't get any bank financing. Again, that's because we had two partners. We did 50-50, whatever it is. And then we did a renovation as well. So we did put a lot of capital up front. It varies from, I think, franchisor to franchisor. I know that since then, I believe Boston Pizza still has financing options, or they're linked with RBC, I believe, to kind of help you with or assist you with financing. But they do expect you to have a good financial background in terms of, like, having enough capital, you have assets. They look at everything. So they deep dive into, what your assets are, your liabilities. I can go on about that, but they do their due diligence, and they want to make sure that if anything was to go wrong, that you are able to cover it with whatever assets that you may have, right? So that is obviously a scary part about owning or getting into business like this, because you need to be prepared for anything that may happen. So even me at that time, I was only 21, 22, didn't have any assets, so my dad had to be a guarantor. So they were flexible in that sense. And I think it just varies, right? I don't want to speak on all franchises, but I think they probably follow the same path.
Got it. And then speaking of money, like, what's your relationship with money? Like, like for me, I'm always like, I know more people are thinking about this, but I've always thought about financial freedom, not just because of the money part, but like, ownership of time. I want to basically like wake up and do what I want when I want. Obviously, like, you can't do that right away. It takes time to kind of get to that point. But
100%.
how do you look at money and how do you invest your money? Because obviously, the income you make from Boston Pizza, you've already kind of talked about getting into real estate investing, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
people do when they,
Yeah.
whatever, their full-time job, whatever it is, that's one way of probably, the best and easy way, I think, to kind of diversify and grow your money. But, beyond that, like, what else are you doing, or what else have you considered?
Honestly, like, obviously everyone looks at stocks and whatnot. I'm not too super versed on that. I do want to learn a lot more about it. So, like, with my free time, I hope to kind of, like, deep dive into that a little bit more. And honestly, like, it's just about, like, I have fun, like, like starting little side hustles and kind of generate income from that, right? What I would do with the money, again, I think you can't go wrong with the real estate. Obviously, like, we learned even like in the last year and a half or 2 years since we kind of started investing a little bit more heavily, the opportunities that come with investing in real estate. And like I said, like, you see all these guys discussing, like, the upsides about that. And I think, a lot of people don't understand it enough to really get into it, but it's huge. Me personally, like I said, I think that's on a higher level. I think that's like the biggest investments that we currently have. And we just hope to grow from there.
You mentioned you met. So did you know Mayu before, actually, out of curiosity?
Yeah, like, I knew him through the restaurant, to be honest.
Oh, nice.
I think this was before he got heavy into real estate. But yeah, that's where we first met and whatnot. And then honestly, I was watching his whole like rise and whatnot. It was crazy, and he's extremely insightful. So I follow him pretty closely, and he knows what he's talking about. So
There's a couple of guys in the
definitely
Tamil community that are really, they know their stuff in real estate. It's cool to follow. I forgot there's another guy to follow too.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, how connected are you to the Tamil community? I guess because of your location and I know a lot of Tamil people, I think, come to your location as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just curious, like, yeah, have you always been connected, like you and your family, to the Tamil community, like in terms of events or just people?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, like my dad is like, like for everything he's achieved and accomplished in his life, like, he's given back a lot to the community. He's well known in the community. And I think that's also like, kind of trickled down into Boston Pizza as well. So like initially starting off, like I said, like we weren't doing the greatest. That's like, there's no pretty like no nice way of putting it. We were struggling. And definitely the community, like he would organize parties for us. He'd organize so many different I guess outlets where he'd bring in and drive business for us. And these are honestly a majority of them were from our Tamil community, and they would come and support us. So we always appreciate them for that, helping us kind of stay afloat while we were figuring things out. So definitely like being involved in the Tamil community is important for us, and we just hope to continue growing it like more moving forward.
What's been like a failure, like learning lesson you've experienced in the last 3 to 5 years? And like, what did you learn from that experience?
To be to be honest, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like even now, I just feel like I haven't failed enough. As in, I just feel like, like we've been, me and my brother talk about this all the time. Like it's been 8 years. We're at the one store. We're comfortable, and maybe that comfort or that fear of failing if we get a second store is always kind of like lingering in our minds. Or like like we always wonder, how do these guys do it? Like like the service isn't the greatest. Or this might be affected or whatever it is. And I think like like I think we just need to kind of pull the trigger a little bit faster and just kind of if we have a thought in our head, like if we feel like what, this is time to do something, we just have to go out and do it. And just kind of figure out like how we did it with this one store, like how we just kind of like decided to jump into it head first and just figure out along the way. I feel like I don't know if I lost that or if I just got more cautious as time went on, but I feel like I do need to be prepared to just fail more frequently and more often and not be too worried about like what may lay ahead. So I think that's like something that's important to me now, like just trying new things and getting out there.
I think when you work so hard to make money, like your first, they say the
Yeah,
first 100K is the hardest or whatever it is. Like
yeah,
when you
definitely.
work so hard to get that capital, I think capital preservation becomes like top of mind. Like, yeah, you want to, set aside money. Like I
Yeah.
set aside a very small budget. I call it like a failure budget or like learning budget, where I can
Hmm.
like delve into different things and just learn. And if it goes, it goes.
Yeah,
But, once you like make a little bit of money, you're like, it took, especially as an entrepreneur, you're like,
yeah,
I don't really want to like lose this because I know how much time this money represents. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think what you said makes sense.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Like even like starting off with the business, we didn't pay ourselves for a couple of years. Like like we were like we got like things taken care of through the business, but we didn't take any money out, and that was like like it was tough. Like you're working so hard for so many like like long hours or whatever it may be, and sometimes you do feel like you get to a point where you're like, oh my god, is this all worth it, right? And you have those moments of doubt, and you just kind of have to stick through it and just really have like your that goal at the goal, like like kind of like this, like yeah, you just got to keep thinking about what the end goal is going to be and just stick to it. But yeah, that was like one of the toughest parts too.
yeah, and when I explain that to people, like let's say like my wife, like now she understands because she runs her own business now as well.
Right.
But I had to always explain to her, like, no, you get paid last. Like, you got to make sure,
Yeah.
like, whoever you work with, even if it's a small team or contractors, like,
Yeah.
everyone's getting paid. They're getting paid way more than you. You're
Yeah.
betting on, 7 to 10 years from now, you got to kind of stick with this grind and then it'll pay off a little bit.
Definitely. Definitely.
And, like, for most people that I think that are not long term thinkers, it's very easy. I know several times I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And
Yeah.
sometimes I still feel like that, but I also feel like I changed as a person where I don't know if you did as well, but I was really bad with money before. Then I started a business. I had some of those habits,
Yeah.
but then, learning how to eventually get a business profitable,
Hmm.
you have to learn how to be good with money. And I've learned that I
Definitely.
don't need as much to even be happy. Like the things that I thought I started the business for, like, oh, I want to do this and that. I actually didn't need
Yeah.
those things anymore. Like this, my needs are pretty simple now.
Yeah.
It's not like to say I'm like doing well, but like
Hmm.
I think you do, if you stick with the business long enough and you're doing it okay, finally, you can make a little bit of money from it. So it's just like a
Yeah.
observation.
And I know I completely agree with you. As in, like, so me and my wife have this like kind of argument or debate all the time. As in, she feels I work way too much, and she's like, "Stop to smell the roses" type of situation. And I'm like, well, yeah, I understand, but like, I'd rather grind while I can, while I'm young and, I have the energy to do it. And then, like say, we're 35, 40, we can just chill, relax, and we'll be good. And then she's like, well, I can't be carrying you up a hill at 35, 40 when you want to go travel Europe and, you're too old to do it. And I'm like, I get what you're saying, but I don't think, that would be the case. Right. And just going back to making sure the business is profitable, like my brother was my partner. He's my left-hand man, right-hand man, whatever you want to call it. He's super organized in that sense. He's super on the numbers, on the operation side of things. So it's really important that, again, like even us as partners, that we understand what our roles are and what we're good at and what we're not good at, right? So I think we do a good job propping each other up. So like, I'll handle more of like the training, the development, the hiring, all that kind of stuff, the HR stuff, and just making sure that the guest experience is amazing. And he'll figure out like, hey, making sure that the labor is in line, the food costs has hit the target, or we're not over budget on certain things. So like, we collectively do a lot of these things together as well, but he takes a lead on those things. So I'll take a lead on certain things. So that definitely helps with a business of this like size.
You mentioned before that you did sales, like for like a business like Boston Pizza, like are
Mhm.
you doing B2B sales? Like are you like reaching out to businesses to get sales? Like what do you mean by your focus is like getting sales?
Yeah, so like again, like for us, again, like we have like if most Boston Pizza, it's a nice concept because we have like that bar side and then we have the dining room side. So like we can entertain all kinds of clientele or guests, right? So we have family dynamics, we have other people, business people, teens, sports groups, whatever it is. So our goal right now is like just to drive the door in any way we can. So prior to the pandemic, we had kids parties every month. So we'd hire a professional who would dress up, or maybe it'd be a Cinderella party, or it'd be a Disney party, or a Moana party, whatever it is, and that would be a way or a driver just to kind of get that extra incremental sale come in. Right now, we have a team rewards program where we provide, hey, if you have a team or like a beer league team, you play softball every Thursday. Come in. We have a ballot box set up for you where we're going to give back 10% of your spend out of for a year-end party, right? So in terms of business to business, we'll go and do pizza drops as an example. We'll choose a business and maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, we're going to go drop off a couple free pizzas, drop off our business cards and our information so that if you decide to throw a team party, we can drive you to our door or our store, right? So like, like we try not to like wait. Like even though we're Boston Pizza, we have our national marketing and all that we're paying for. We do a lot of local store marketing as well, and we're responsible for that.
How old are you now?
I'm 30. I just turned 30, July 5th.
All right. So
Yeah, I just turned 30.
so if you had a chance to go back in a time machine and sit down with 16-year-old Praveen, what would you tell him?
Um, like I said, just don't be afraid to fail. I felt like I could have taken a lot more risks at a younger age, more than I have, even at 21, 22, jumping into Boston Pizza. I feel like I still was too old, even at that time, as in like I just didn't take enough chances on a lot of things. I think it was more just about the fear of just disappointing people, disappointing my family, whatever it may be. And I think that's like one of, not, I wouldn't say it's like the biggest regret of my life, but I think it's just something I've come to a realization as in, because of our, like, I think our background, our community, like, we, our parents do work so hard and to give us opportunities that we do have. It always felt like, failure isn't really an option. And not even that my parents can put that kind of pressure on me. I think I put that on myself. And as you get older, you just kind of reflect and think back on these things. And I do think about, like actually up in like, like thinking about this interview or like this being on your podcast, I was just thinking about the questions and all that kind of stuff that you'd be asking me. And I was reflecting a lot about my journey up until this point now. And there's so many mistakes I made, so many things that I wouldn't change because I would never have learned all the things I did if I didn't make those mistakes. But it's just about having like the courage just to try things and just get out there, right? So I think that's the only thing I would tell my 16-year-old self, as in just try. Just don't be afraid of making mistakes and failing.
And in terms of your personal legacy, like, I guess like looking forward in a way, how would you want to be remembered by your friends and family?
It's a good question.
Money can be hard to come by, but here's $100 opportunity for you. Join my free newsletter for free exclusive content and a free chance to win $100 when I hold special draws. Did I mention that it's free?
Honestly, like I'm known as a very, very sweet, nice guy, and very giving. I think I want to be remembered for that, as in like, like they said, money's not the most important thing to me. I probably will give away whatever I do have by the end of my life, whatever that might be. As long as like, my friends and family, they're happy, healthy, safe. I think those are the most things I value. and yeah, just being a good person and just doing as much good as I can while I'm here.
That's a good way to segue into our final part of the podcast. It's a game I like to call Creator Confessions. It's like a speed round. So I'll say a
Okay.
bunch of statements and you tell me the first thing that pops in mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. Favorite Tamil food?
Atrachi.
And just because you own a Boston Pizza, the item that you would recommend most to someone like me if I'm just gonna come check out the store.
Okay. If you're getting a pizza, I definitely recommend the meteor pizza. It's my favorite. Growing like ever since I started, it's fully meat, loaded with meat. Can't go wrong with that one.
Okay. Something that scares you.
Something that scares me: getting old.
Insecurity that you have.
Insecurity that I have. It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I don't even know. That's a good one. Insecurity. Okay, that's to say my height. I'm short.
Why, how tall are you?
I'm like 5'6", 5'7", maybe.
That's just a number, man.
This is a number, yeah.
Favorite show you're watching?
Favorite show I'm watching? Stranger Things.
Place you're itching to travel to?
Oh, Europe, Euro trip.
Where in
All
Europe
across Europe.
specifically? All across
Oh,
Europe.
where in your? Oh, yeah, all across Europe. To be honest, I've been to London, France, all those places, but I feel like there's so much more to discover. So definitely have to get back on that.
Fellow Tamil creator you want to give a shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to Mayu for sure. He's definitely helped us out through our journey and whatnot, and appreciate his advice and the time that he takes to help people out. So definitely shout out Mayu.
Favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory? Wow. Honestly, probably just spending time with my parents on, like probably a birthday. That's probably what it is for me. Those are the times where we actually get together as a whole group, which rarely happens sometimes when we're growing up. So I think the birthdays are the best.
Something you like to do for fun outside of work?
Outside of work, oh, I love hunting for like collectibles. So me and my brother-in-law, we go after Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, getting into this, like, it's kind of a bit of a hobby of mine. So I like collectibles. Yeah.
You're like Gary V.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite film of all time or movie? It could be Tamil, English, it could be both.
Oh man, well, like I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so like I love the whole series. I read all the books, watched the play just for my birthday right now. So yeah, definitely nerding out there. Yeah, Harry Potter.
Oh, you saw the what is it
The
called?
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the
First
play.
shot. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was good.
yeah, it was good. It was good. It was long, but it was good. It was good.
What's something you purchased in the last couple of years you've splurged on, but you have no regret about it?
I personally didn't. Well, like for my wedding, my brother gifted me a very nice watch. So like yeah, I definitely think that was a splurge. He got me a Hublot, so that was quite pricey, but definitely don't regret it. I'm not complaining.
A pet peeve of yours?
A pet peeve. Um, I don't even know. Like I don't really have that like a pet peeve. Yeah, I don't know. Like there's not too much that really bothers me. You really have to work really, really hard to get under my skin. So I don't really have one. I don't know. Like I can't
You
think of
play
one off the top of
sports?
my head. Honestly, man, it's been a while since I played sports. No, I haven't, man.
Okay. A person or celebrity that you look up to?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I listen to, like you said, I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. I think I relate to him a lot in a lot of ways. Like growing up, school wasn't like, actually, it's funny. I didn't tell you this, but getting into Boston Pizza, I left school with half a semester to go. So I technically haven't graduated yet. I have 2 courses left to graduate from Brock University, and I just got into BPA. I never looked back. So I just feel like, yeah, to some degree, like you don't always need a formal education to be successful. You just have to be willing to put in the work, and have like the right mindset, obviously, just to get things done.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like now that like my wife and I we have the kids, they're
Yeah,
very young, but like for me, I've already felt this way as I got into the entrepreneurship world. But I was like, obviously the path you took, you had to take because you wouldn't learn all the
yeah,
things you did.
for
But
sure.
looking back, like instead of my kids going to school, having a student loan or whatever it is, like even if I
Yeah.
help them out with that, what's the point of them doing a program or something that we're forcing them
Hmm.
to do versus, if they have a passion, they want to, jump into the working world right after high school
Right.
and they're serious about it, they have a plan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. And like for you, you found
Right.
success without finishing school. There's so many people I
Definitely.
know that just finished only like high school, for example, but they're successful entrepreneurs. and they make way more than, you know, people that finish school and have like
No,
master's
for sure.
degrees or whatever it is. So yeah.
For sure. I just think it's whatever makes sense for you, whatever you're comfortable with. Like, yeah, if you want to become a doctor, you got to go through the traditional path, and you got to get your grades. But I think there's a lot you can do without a formal education.
Well, I look at opportunity cost and compound interest, right? If
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
18, you just finished high school and you start working and learning and maybe building a business, whatever you want to do, versus waiting till you're 25, 26, that's like 6, 7, 8 years.
Hmm.
That's 8 years you got to kind of compound your skills, your money, your, you know, connections that, you know,
Definitely.
somebody like, I feel like I learned, like, I wish I started like 7 years earlier, but again, it's easy to say that.
Yeah,
But
for sure. You could look back at it now. Yeah, you definitely look back at it now and just wish you did so many things when you're
yeah,
much younger, right? But it's just the way the cards fall sometimes.
yeah, and I'm like, you know, like you said, no regrets. Like this is the path I was supposed to take, so you know, I'm happy
Absolutely.
with that. If you knew that
Absolutely.
you were gonna die tomorrow, a regret that you have
Hmm.
would have.
A regret that I would have if I was to die tomorrow. Honestly, I think I would only regret just. I feel like I just still have to. I want to spend a lot more time with my friend, like my family and whatnot, and just have that quality time that I wish I had as a kid. I felt like that was one aspect of my life that I really missed out on. As a like I've had an amazing life. If I was to go tomorrow, I would say I had an amazing, very blessed life. But if I was to choose something, it would just to spend more time with my family. Yeah.
Age you want to retire by.
Tomorrow. I mean, I mean, realistically, yeah, I don't think 40 is unrealistic. I think if I make the right moves and if I just make the right choices moving forward and some of the things I want to do, I think 40 is a realistic number. Maybe 45. But I think past that, I don't think I think that might be too long. I think 40 or 45 is a realistic option. But I don't think I'd ever retire though. Like my dad's 50, 57 or 58 now, and he's not even showing any signs of slowing down. And I think that's also something that's instilled in him, as in if he feels like if he stops, he's gonna drop. So I think it's one of those things where I think I'll always keep myself busy. But I get, like I said, like when it comes to when it comes to the money, if you're talking about in terms of how much money do you need to never have to work another day in your life, I think I just need to be comfortable. Like I'm not the type of person that needs to be ultra rich or be like the next Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. I think I just need to be comfortable enough to live a good life and a happy one.
Celebrity whose life you want to experience for one day.
Ah, that's a good one. Celebrity whose life I want to experience for one day. Oh, Dwayne the Rock Johnson for sure.
Favorite book you've read recently or a podcast you've listened to that's had a major impact on you?
Well, actually, I've been listening to all your podcasts all leading up to this, so that's been good.
Oh, amazing!
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been listening to that.
Did you start
I've been really,
listening after I reached out to you, or did you hear about it before out of curiosity?
well, you know what? I've seen you pop up on like my page here and there, but I honestly didn't deep dive into it. Then I saw Mayu's. I started listening to Mayu's. That's where I
Uh,
started way back. And
okay, okay,
then
okay.
like even for the last few days, I was listening to, I forget her name. I think it was Belinda, the one that you're interviewing on TIFF, or she does like a lot of things around movies. 'Cause I like movies. I
Okay,
love
okay.
movies actually. So that kind of intrigued me a lot. So I was listening to ones. I was kind of cherry picking the ones that I thought would
Yeah, yeah,
relate to
yeah.
me the most. So that was fun. Um, in terms of books, there's so many out there. It just depends on what you're looking at. I think the 48 Laws of Power is pretty interesting, and Principles by Ray Dalio
Yeah.
is a good read. Um, I think those are two books I'd recommend you reading.
What's a belief, behavior, or habit that's improved your life?
I think it's just like, do good upon others, as in like I don't have like I try to live my life in a way where I don't have a bad thought about another person. It's important to me that if you reach out to me for help, I'll be there to help you. It's not a situation where I'm going to hide information from you. It's going to be a situation where I know if I tell you this, you're going to take away from me. I truly believe that there's more than enough money out there for everyone to earn, or whatever it may be. I think it's important that we help each other grow, develop, and to see each other like succeed. So I feel like I sleep easy at night knowing that I'm the type of person that if you were to call me, I would literally give you all the information I possibly could about Boston Pizza and franchising and steer you in the right direction, as an example. And I'll make sure that I don't put you in a situation where you might fail or whatever it is, because I didn't have, or me and my brother didn't have the guidance that we did, or like after all the years that we've been in the system, that we learn now. So when people reach out to us regarding this type of adventure, we tell them like it's not as easy as you think. Like, you know, there are a lot of things to consider, and we'll like to guide them in the right way. But I think just being a good person and just I think that's the most important thing. And that's why, like, I don't know, in a weird way, I feel like that's why we've been successful as well. There's someone watching over us, seeing the good that we try to do. So that's really important to me, just being a good person and helping others as much as I can.
And finally, what's a piece of advice that you would give to your fellow aspiring Tamil creators out there?
Piece of advice for aspiring Tamil creators. Honestly, like I said, if you have an idea, if you have a thought, I think you just need to go out and figure out a way to attain it, right? Don't let things get in your way. Network as much as you can. I think that's super important. Something that I wish I do more of as well. So like I said, like me jumping on this podcast today was like a big step for me in the direction where I want to head to for my future. So I think that not being afraid to ask for help, and like if someone's doing what you want to be doing, then all you have to do is connect with them and figure out a way to get in touch with someone. You don't need to figure it out from scratch and make all the mistakes that they did. The whole reason why other people make these mistakes for you is for you to learn about it, right? So I think it's just important to take advantage of the opportunities that you have presented. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like they have a chip on their shoulder and be like, hey, I did this by myself, or I did this from the ground up. But that's not really the case. Like, I feel like, like as an example, getting into real estate investing, like I'm learning for everyone else around me. And I'm so appreciative of that, right? It's even though I'm making my fair share of mistakes, I think we would have made a ton more if we didn't listen to a bunch of people that we connected to. So I just think, just like reaching out to your network and going after what you want is super important.
Awesome. Well, Piraveen, thank you for jumping on the podcast. I mean, for me, I learned a ton from kind of about the franchising business, and it's cool to kind of hear your story and kind of similarities. For someone listening to this podcast, they felt inspired, or they just like, I want to connect with this guy. What's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on Instagram. My handle is Piraveen S. It says Bossa Pizza in my bio and whatnot as well. So please feel free to DM me anytime you have any questions regarding the restaurant business or franchising in general. And definitely help you out as much as I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for making time. And for those of you listening, appreciate you guys for listening as always. And see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Ara.